Good morning and welcome back to another episode of Cheap, Tasty and Filling with me, Richard. If you're new to this series, this is all about doing home cooking with the ingredients that you've got in. This recipe was born of the desire a few years ago to have lasagna, but I didn't have any lasagna sheets. So I thought, how can I make a sort of layered bake with the same kind of tasty appeal? And I thought pancakes. And I thought with Pancake Day approaching, this might be a nice savoury idea for you to try. Also, you could cook extra pancakes, make this bake, and have it the next day if you wanted to. I'm doing a little bit of cheating today because I found in the cupboard a tin of plant-based bolognese with lentil and mushrooms, which Paul must have picked up a while ago. And I thought, I'm going to use that as my base. I'm going to be doing my usual thing of starting it off with fresh vegetables that we've got in, adding maybe a tin of chickpeas, maybe even a tin of baked beans as well. And this is going to form my red sauce, the equivalent of a meat sauce. So this recipe has got a few stages to it. I'm going to have to make my pancakes. I'll show you how. I'm going to have to make my red sauce. I'm also going to have to make a white sauce, which I'm going to flavour with probably a little bit of nutmeg and some cheese, maybe a few mixed herbs. And then I've got to bake the whole thing. I'm going to be using a large Denby baking dish, which should fit whole pancake in it, and I'm going to layer them up. It's going to be good. When we had this a few years ago, we had a friend round for dinner and she was amazed by it. She couldn't get over the recipe. It was just so good. So without further ado, let's get into the kitchen. I need to put my hair up first. I've washed it this morning so it's all over the place, and get putting this dish together. It's not complicated, it's not difficult, it's just got a few stages that we need to go through. Come on. So the first thing I want to do is to get my main veggie sauce sorted out so it can be cooking down, because I do want this to develop some flavour. Unlike a lasagna, this won't need to bake for an hour. It'll probably take about, 30 to 40 minutes, I think. So I want to get this cooking down first so it develops a good flavour, it's got some depth to it, and I don't want it to be too wet, because in lasagna you need the moisture to cook out the lasagna sheets. We don't really need to do that. I'm breaking this recipe down into stages, so this is the first stage. When we've done this, we'll be doing the white sauce, and then we'll be doing the pancakes. So I'm going to begin with usual ingredients. You know me, I've got a couple of peppers, I've got a couple of sticks of celery and onion, 3 carrots which I've grated. I've got this tin of plant-based bolognese which I'm going to be using, some baked beans and a tin of chickpeas to increase the protein content. So I need to get all of these into the pan and get them sautéed down and cooked together. Let's get the heat on. Get the pan hot, a little glug of olive oil, not too much because we're going to put the lid on and let things cook in their own steam. Let's pop in the veggies, all in at once. And the carrots. Look at that colour. Lovely. Ooh. Being careful not to spill them everywhere. I'm sort of doing this back to front with the wrong hand. Once it's come up to temperature, turn the heat down. You don't need things to fry. And remember, these sort of heavy bottomed pans hold the heat really well. Once you've given it a good stir, you turn the heat down. Pop the lid on and just let them sweat a little bit. So I've left these for a good few minutes. They're really starting to release their juices, which is good. That's what you want. I'm going to give them a stir. You know by now that we do believe in eating good amounts of vegetables every day. And, you know, we do buy our vegetables at the moment because we don't have a huge amount of veggies available to us. And, you know, yeah, there are air miles on peppers, but somebody's got to buy them, haven't they? Whoops. Stray pepper. Okay, that's fine. Things are starting to soften. Add your chickpeas. Whatever you want, in fact. Obviously, this is a recipe that can be adapted to however you want it. I'm keeping the heat low, so I don't want anything to stick or burn. I'm going to add this tin of plant-based bolognese. Just looks like a bolognese. This has got all natural ingredients. I'm quite impressed with the list. I'm going to add the baked beans. To be honest, it already looks good. And what I'm going to do is leave this on a very low light and just let it cook very slowly. In fact, I'm going to put it onto a smaller burner at the back so it's on an even lower light. I don't want it to burn, and come back to it occasionally and give it a stir. It just needs to cook down to release more of the juices from the vegetables that we've added. Okay, we're moving on to the white sauce now. So this is the roux method, which you've seen me use before. So to make this, I've got the olive oil, flour, I've got a mixture of milk and water, oat milk and water. It's about 3/4 of a pint. Black pepper, mixed herbs, some nutmeg, some English mustard, a little bit of cheese. It's about, I don't know, 50-60 grams, something like that, not a lot. I've got a tablespoon and my whisk as well. I'm using my trusty old IKEA saucepan. Get it nice and warm. I'm going to need probably I don't know, sorry about the shadow, probably a good tablespoon and a half of olive oil. As soon as you start to hear it crackling, turn the heat down to sort of low to medium. Don't want it to burn. I'm adding a heaped tablespoon of plain flour. Using my whisk, I'm going to combine the two. Now, if you get to there and you think, that looks a little bit dry, which I think it does, just add a little bit more oil. The idea is to cook the flour to release the grains of starch in the flour, which are going to be the thickening agent for the sauce. That's better. I don't know whether you can see, but that is very gently starting to sizzle, just very gently. It starts to look a little bit frothy. Let that bubble whilst stirring it for about 2 minutes max. You do not want this to brown because you're making a white sauce, you're not making a gravy. So the heat has to be low at this stage. You can turn the heat up later. It's really frothing. And after those 2 minutes, you start adding the milk. Now it will sizzle at the beginning and it will go very thick. If you're using a whisk, you need to whisk it good and hard. Go in straight away and combine the two. Now this is the point where it will start to thicken. Apologies for the rattling pan, you can see it thickening. Just beat it up. Because if you have no lumps at this stage, you'll be fine. Now look, it's going all gluey. Add more liquid. Speed is of the essence here. Beat it again, and you think to yourself, oh God, it's going to go lumpy. It's a bit messy as well. It's not going to go lumpy. Keep whisking it. Sorry about the shadows, there's very little I can do about that. It's challenging to film this. Oh, that's getting all nice and smooth. Perfect. In terms of quantities, it depends on the size of the dish that you're making. I'm going to be using quite a large dish and a few pancakes, but generally I tend to use this on the top. Now it's nice and smooth, but we need to get that a little smoother than that. More milk. And what you can do at this stage is turn the heat up a little bit, because we do need to cook it out. And we're aiming for a sauce that's smooth and glossy and lump free, which my sauces always are because I'm experienced at cooking this. But it does take a little bit of work. Got to be quick. There's no hanging around. You can't allow it to burn, or else it will ruin the look of the sauce completely. What I'm going to do at this stage is I'm going to add my mixed herbs. A sprinkle of mixed herbs. It's really bubbling now. Go in and stir. You don't want things to catch. Lovely, a few mixed herbs. I'm going to add a little bit of ground nutmeg, not too much. Stir that in. Add the rest of your milk. Just to go over those sort of amounts, it's probably 1.5 tablespoons of olive oil, a heaped tablespoon of flour, 3/4 pint of milk, which is combined with water, so it's a mixture of half and half. And that's it. That should provide you with enough sauce to top this dish. Now let that come to the boil. I'm going to add my, don't lose your whisk, I'm going to add my black pepper. This needs to come to the boil and it needs to then simmer for about 5 minutes. just to make sure there's no floury taste, that we cook the flour properly. You can see that's just gently bubbling away. Once that's cooked for about 6 minutes, 5 or 6 minutes, add your cheese. Just give it a gentle stir and let the cheese melt. And what you can do at this stage is just turn the heat off and let the cheese melt in the sauce. You can add more cheese if you want to. I'm choosing to keep our cheese intake fairly low at the moment. So once you've done that, pop a lid on, put it to the back and leave it. Okay, so we're on to the stage of making the pancakes, or making the batter to begin with. So I've got a couple of eggs, 275 millilitres of liquid, so that's about 200 of milk, oat milk, and the rest in water. I've got 110 grams of flour. I've got my spatula for flipping, and I've also got another whisk. I've got about 3 of these whisks. I love them, they're great. I think they're called Wonder Whisks, and I think I got them from Lakeland. So they're always handy for sauces and batters. So the first thing we're going to do is pop the eggs in and start the batter. Pop in the eggs and start combining them with the flour. Sorry about any noise, but I'm working this in. And once you reach that sort of doughy, gluey stage, start adding your liquid. Add it bit by bit. You can see it immediately loosens up. At this stage, what I do is swap over to the whisk. Get any bits off the spoon. Add more liquid. Make sure you combine every bit of flour. And again, it should be glossy and creamy, just like our roux sauce. And we're there. Nice glossy, pale, creamy batter, ready to make pancakes. Now, what people do, and I've said this before when I've made pancakes for Pancake Day, people do leave the batter to rest for a while. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to get on with the pancakes. Also, in that recipe that I did for Pancake Day, you can add some fat at this stage. People add melted butter. I'm not doing that for this. I'm going to use a little bit of butter in the pan to cook them. But that's it. I'm not adding it to the mixture. So I'm happy with that. It's lovely and smooth and glossy. Let's cook them. You might notice to one side I've got a plate over here to put the pancakes onto when they're cooked. The important thing with pancakes is to get your pan really hot. So heat full blast. I could dry fry them, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to put a small amount of butter. You could distribute this with a bit of kitchen paper, but I haven't got any kitchen paper, so I'm just tipping it around. I really want it to be hot, very hot. You could put a drop of the batter in. If it starts to sizzle, you're ready to go. I'm going to use a ladleful of batter per pancake. Pop it in and immediately swirl it around. Your first one is always a bit of a test. If there's any gaps, just add a little bit more. Take control. Give it a shake. You can see that it's loose. You can curl a corner up to see how it's cooking. If you flip it too soon, it'll fall apart. I'm just thinking the plate that I've got out there is a little bit too small, I think. I'm going to have to make do. I'm just going to slide my spatula underneath and flip it over and hope for the best. Yeah, that's fine. Now what you can do, if you were making a lot of pancakes for Pancake Day and you wanted to keep them all hot, you could separate them with greaseproof paper on the plate and pop them in the oven to keep warm until you're ready to serve. It needs a little bit longer. They don't take very long at all. So once that's done, pop it onto the plate, reserve it for later, and make your next one. Notice I didn't put any more butter in, you just simply don't need it. You're just adding unnecessary fat. I'm keeping the heat fairly high. Let's give it a shake. No, not quite ready yet. You see the edges curling up a little bit. Might take longer to cook. Ooh, golden. These are great, these big spatulas. Perfect for non-stick because they don't scratch, they're heat resistant, and they're big as well. They've got a wide area, so they're good for catching hold of things. Let's flip that over again. Oh, whoops. If you live up north, you'll be familiar with oat cakes. They're something you could use in this recipe as well, although they are a little bit thicker. Okay, I think that will do for that one. Onto the plate. We've got a gorgeous veggie sauce with chickpeas, which has cooked beautifully. There's not too much juice. It's a really nice filling mixture. We've got our white sauce, which the cheese has melted. We've got one ingredient to put in there actually. Good heaped teaspoon of mustard in there. Always put your mustard in last because heat tends to kill off mustard. So you don't want it to be completely dead by the time the dish is baked. Stir in that mustard. Let's build the dish. We're going to begin with a thin layer of the white sauce. I'm going to drizzle it over. A couple of tablespoons and just spread it around best you can. I'm going to take a pancake, pop it on top. Just give it a gentle press down. On top of that, we put a layer of our vegetables. Don't do too thick a layer. We've got to build up 4 layers here. I'm using a nice flat spoon so I can spread it. I'm also sort of gently pressing it down, just gently. That's fine. Another pancake. You can see how these are such a great fit for this dish. Just happens to be that way. Another layer of the vegetable mixture. Another pancake. I honestly don't know how I do it, but I always seem to get the right amount. I mean, I have not calculated this. It's simply experience that sort of tells me how much I need for this dish, because I've used this particular baking dish so many times to make this kind of dish that I sort of know exactly what I need, and there's no leftovers here, unfortunately. That is literally just the perfect amount. I think this is why people who are inexperienced tend to hold on to a recipe, you know, because they maybe haven't experimented enough. Final pancake on the top. And then the pièce de résistance, the sauce, the white sauce. The whole lot goes on top. Let me try and do this in a way that you can see. Let's give it a gentle spread around so it starts to go down the sides of the dish, because this will infiltrate the layers and give a nice blend of sort of white sauce and tomato sauce. Okay, that's perfect. This needs to go into an oven, I would say around 180 degrees centigrade for approximately 30 to 40 minutes until it's bubbling and baked. You can do it for longer if you want to bake it even more. And also the other thing you can do is, what I'm going to do is pop a foil lid on for the first 15 minutes of the bake so it doesn't burn on top. Okay, let's get the oven on and get this baby in. You're going to see it when it's cooked. So here it is, fresh out of the oven. Let's turn that oven off. Sizzling away. We are going to have this for our lunch. So now I need to serve up and eat. Looks gorgeous. Now these kind of dishes are notoriously difficult to serve. I'm going to attempt to serve whilst preserving the layers and making it look attractive. Now I would, if I was serving this for a main meal, I would probably serve some steamed broccoli with it. And this, actually, you could, I would say, probably get 6 nice portions out of it. We're going to have a sort of quarter each today and then reserve the rest for tomorrow. First thing I always do is take a knife round the edge of these kind of dishes. It's really baked well. It was about 45 minutes in total. And I'm also going to cut as well. It's very light. And it's still nice and saucy on top as well. This is the fun part. I'm going to try for this piece here. It's kept its shape quite well. To Paul, it's my world famous pancake lasagna. I've not had this for a while.
We haven't.
And you know what I use for it?
Pancakes.
That tin of plant-based bolognese.
Oh,
that
right.
was in the cupboard.
All right, interesting.
Use that as the base.
Delicious. Lovely. I mean, it's so. I mean, it's comfort food, isn't it? It's just tasty and lovely and cheesy and creamy and vegetable-y.
There's a small amount of cheese in it.
It's delicious.
And you find that the pancake actually is a lot lighter than pasta. It's very light and easy to cut through and very easy to eat as well.
So what did that bolognese sauce look like?
Just like a bolognese sauce.
Because it was on offer at Morrison's for £1, I think.
Lentils and mushroom with various good ingredients, nothing nasty.
Totally lovely.
This is our lunch. It's a late lunch because Paul's been down at the plot.
We had a working party at the plot this morning.
So I think this is ideal for you as a good lunch. You could serve a smaller portion with steamed veg or roasted veg or chips, something like that, and a salad. We're having a big portion for lunch and we'll have a light dinner tonight. We won't have, have a wrap or something.
Yeah. I think the grating the carrots really helps as well. Their sweetness really comes out.
It's just really hearty. It's a good meal. And you're getting protein, vitamins, minerals, your veg portion and a little bit of fat and your carbs all in one go, and it's delightful. I love it.
And fibre.
Oh, plenty of fibre. Absolutely loads of fibre in this.
This is definitely a favourite. Got quite a lot of favourites, but this is definitely a favourite.
The pancakes become so light, but they somehow hold it together.
Was that tin of chickpeas?
Yeah. Thanks very much for watching this episode. I hope you've enjoyed it. And I'll see you next week for another recipe. Bye for now.